On this episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast, we talk about Slayer! Yeah, it's Rain and Blood. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
And we're two professional broadcasters. We like metal. We like to talk about it. Today, we're talking about an album that needs very little introduction.
Yeah.
And a band that needs no introduction. It's Rain and Blood by Slayer.
Right. You've never done it on this podcast. And it's like,
yeah.
Rated as the number one thrash metal album ever.
OJ, I'm 24.
It's true.
I'm 24 and
let's do some old music from back in 2010.
Yeah.
Back when I was 14.
Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of people who are my age who I assume have a much greater appreciation for Slayer. It's just like up until I met you and you started, bringing, thrash metal albums to my attention on a regular basis. It was never something that I sought out. It was something that I knew like, oh, this is important. And this is, a big part of everything that I love that's currently coming out in the metal scene. But I was not seeking it out on my own.
Right. Right, because a lot of the bands that I bring, at the time they recorded their albums, they smelled like beer and weed. Now they smell like urine and mentholatum. Right.
And you hear the sound of the CPAP machine. Which Tom Araya does use. Tom Araya sleeps with the CPAP machine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of ironic. He's a respiratory therapist.
Yeah.
And has to use a CPAP. Although, he also almost completely broke his neck.
When did that happen?
It was a few years ago. It was just because of a lifetime of having such a large noggin and headbanging.
Yeah. Having a large head and moving it around back and forth very quickly.
Right.
Over and over and over again.
One of two things happens when you do that. You either destroy your neck and your spinal column, or you become George Fisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you suddenly you haven't destroyed your neck, but you don't really have a neck anymore.
If there's a neck bone in there, it is deep in there.
It is buried beneath many layers of flesh.
Yeah.
That's almost a Cannibal Corpse lyric right there. Or Slayer lyric for that matter. We'll talk more about Slayer in a bit. Of course, this is a massive album. It's a hugely important album, and we'll get back to it in a bit. First, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing the same thing you are, man, just about.
Yeah. So today was my first day ever, 10 months into, not 10, 8 months or whatever into
12 years
the
into
pandemic. Yeah.
Pandemic.
That's what it feels like. But well into the pandemic, I am for the first time working from home, and everybody else, including you, is on track to do the same because it's just the decision that we made. We're a broadcast company, so we're considered essential, an essential business.
We need to do what we do.
So we didn't necessarily have to work from home, or we didn't have quite as much incentive to work from home as many other businesses did, because it's a bit more of a operation to get all of us to be able to work from home than it is for people who work in an office.
Right. It requires some serious equipment. I mean,
yeah. And so we're just now doing this, and it was my very first day working completely from home, and I'm already bored out of my mind.
Well, we live in North Dakota, and North Dakota has been in the news and all the prep work and everything that comes over our desk. What's the top headline in the world right now? Oh, North Dakota, you fucking suck. You can't get your shit together.
You can't get your shit together. And especially the county we live in is by far one of the worst in the state. And so it was time for this to happen. But it's not difficult. It's just annoying.
Yeah.
Because I'm so used to everything working in a certain way, and it's not the way it works anymore, and I'm going to have to get used to that. And also, I'm the only person in the office who is alone in the world.
Sure, yeah. Well, everybody else goes home to people. You come home to a cat.
Yeah, I have a cat, and she is not, she's great. I love her. She's soft and cuddly and wonderful. A conversational partner, she is not.
No.
And so I feel like I'm going to have to make for the first time in my life, I'm going to have to make effort to seek people out for conversation.
Sure.
Instead of just letting things happen naturally and getting my fill of, because that's how I engage with people. Is
sure.
I let conversations happen, or if something pops into my head, or I see something funny that I want to share with you, of course I do that.
Of course.
But
it's not all that often. It's
I'm a reactive sort of conversational partner, and I let the conversation take me wherever it will. But I don't seek people out to talk to, because I get enough of what I want the way that I do it.
Sure.
But now I'm getting nothing, because there aren't people coming up to me and saying, hey, did you see this thing? Or did you listen to this? Or have you seen that? Nobody's doing that.
Maybe you need to have your own OnlyFans page.
Yeah. There we go. I'm just going to jump.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump straight to jerking off on camera. I mean, I've been doing it for the FBI for years. So.
Well, you don't have to jump to that. Maybe you can start off with, very friendly. If somebody wants to hear, hey, join my page and pay me $5 a month if you want to hear me talk about guns or
OJ.
Warhammer.
The way it works is I have to start off. I have to start off on Twitch, okay?
Okay.
And then, I'm talking about whatever on Twitch, and then, people get really into doing like kind of licentious cosplay, and then people are like, we really want to see you naked, and that's when I start the OnlyFans page.
So it's a gradual transition.
I can't jump straight to I can't jump straight to being a cammer. I gotta.
Yeah, I haven't had any conversation lately. Want to see me naked? Yeah.
I feel like that's a very big jump.
Yeah.
It's also not a healthy way to have social interaction with people. I think if that's what you're relying on for social interaction, that's not healthy on either end of that interaction or I guess transaction. But I'll have to figure something out. I mean, I have you come over. We still get to see each other face to face. But other than that, I am gonna need some sort of solution to be able to talk to people.
Do you have friends you can FaceTime or?
Yeah, I do. It's just none of us have anything set up on a regular basis besides like D&D, but a lot of that is, for the last month and a half or so, there's been a lot of interruptions to the gaming schedule because, a couple of people I play with are in grad school and they're having to deal with that. And then, the guy who DMs the D&D game that I've been playing in just joined the Postal Service. And so he's getting used to, he's getting used to having to walk 60 miles a week.
Sure.
And he sent that to the chat just yesterday. He was like, I looked at I think he has it's supposed to be like a bike riding app or something. Like it keeps track of how many miles you've ridden. And it's like 60 miles this week. It's just like, holy shit. Well, because I didn't really think about this is in like neighborhoods, you drive your vehicle to the neighborhood and then you park.
Right. And then
you walk. Because for me, because I haven't lived in town for most of my life. And here, there's no sidewalks in this part of town. And so a lot of the postal workers just stay in their vehicle as far as I know.
Right.
And, hand stuff out from the vehicle. But in like where I grew up, the Postal Service typically relied on postal workers that had their own vehicles. They weren't even driving the trucks. I can't remember what the long life vehicle is what they're called. They're LLVs is what they're called. And despite the fact they are called the long life vehicle, I think most of them are supposed to be replaced because he mentioned that he had to that his LLV basically broke down like 6 separate times throughout the day. Then he had to restart it. I think they're towards the end of their long life.
Sure.
It's just that, the Postal Service has been gutted recently, so they don't have money for new vehicles. So he's been doing that. And so that has been kind of a problem for his schedule. So I don't have a lot of my regular ways to get in contact with people other than, just the chat groups that I'm in online. But I'll have to figure something out because I can't just let all of these thoughts build up. I'm going to get on air one day and I'm not on air, I guess. Yeah. I'll eventually be on air. I'm going to log onto my computer and use our software to pretend that I'm at a radio station.
Right.
And I'm going to find myself in the middle of a liner talking about Warhammer because it's just built up. I didn't have anyone to unload all of that stuff on.
Yeah, he was talking about some program at the library that involves space marines.
What's a space marine? I don't know what a space marine is. I know there's the Space Force, and I know there's the Marine Corps. Is that a thing in the new Space Force that they got where they have space marines?
Oh yeah, don't you know?
Oh gosh, but yeah, I'll have to figure something out. You are starting later this week, but you have a whole family.
I do have a whole family. Yeah, and tomorrow I'm filling in for Jeff. I'm doing his morning, and then I'm doing the Sunday show, and then I'm going home immediately. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But there are two sides to this coin, man. I mean, you are going to be locked up with no one.
Yeah.
Because you have no one. You're completely alone in this world.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
I'm going to go home and be with the same people all the time.
Yeah. At least your kids will be at school.
Yeah.
For some, unless that changes, because that is subject to change possibly at the beginning of next semester or even before then,
or the beginning of next week.
Yeah,
who knows? I mean,
that might be subject to change.
Sure,
but
once again, North Dakota most per capita cases of COVID.
North Dakota not getting its shit together. Yeah, so I mean, your kids will be at school. Your wife is going to be working from home shortly, though, isn't she?
Sure, she'll be upstairs. She rearranged her bedroom so that she's going to use our bedroom as an office.
Okay, and you're going to be downstairs.
I'll be downstairs.
You figured that out. You set it up.
We have a big fold up metal picnic table. I got 2 laptops.
Nice.
I got my gear and everything.
See, we're because I brought my work laptop home and it's just sitting on a chair because the only reason I brought that home because it's a piece of junk is because it has all my tabs for doing affidavits and stuff on it. And I didn't want to port all of those over. I want as few additional tabs on my home desktop as humanly possible because I want there to be some delineation between my personal property and shit I'm using for work. I want there to be some barrier between the two. Because like this morning when I got up, I went for a walk.
Sure. Because
I wanted there to be a delineation between like, okay, I also need to get some physical activity because for the most part, most of my physical activity in the day is walking back and forth to work because I live very close to where we work. And so I walk home to eat lunch and then I walk back and, walking to and fro.
Right.
Is how I get most of my physical activity. It's a minuscule amount, but it's better than absolutely nothing. So I need need
some sunlight. You need a little bit of fresh air.
Well, it's fresh air, sure. But as far as sunlight goes, it is the wrong time of year for that.
True that.
But
although Thursday afternoon, we should see there will be the clouds Thursday morning, and then it's going to clear up, and it's going to be a high in the upper 20s for Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, beautiful, wonderful, perfect all-American girl. Carrie Underwood lyrics just coming on out of me. That's the sort of thing I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
Is that, like I said, I'm just going to have so much nonsense built up in my brain, and I'm going to have an interaction with another human being that doesn't know me, and a whole bunch of weird shit is going to come spilling out, and they're going to be like, this man is insane.
You're going to become a gibbering fiend? What was the...
gibbering mouther.
Gibbering mouther, that was it.
They're covered in mouths. I don't think I'm going to be growing any extra mouths, but I will be gibbering. So, yeah, it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing. I'll figure it out, I guess. That's the best I got. Like the thing is, the work isn't hard. Like, that's fine. I'm not worried about that side of it. It's just the complete lack of interaction is going to be.
You can walk down to the mall. The mall's pretty close.
Sure.
Mask up and head through Dakota Square.
Yeah.
A single man in his 20s.
Yeah, walking through the mall by himself, seeking human interaction.
Yeah. I think at that point you might as well just have your dick out. I think if you're a single man in his 20s looking for social interaction at the shopping mall.
Yep. I need to buy a trench coat.
Yeah.
I should spend this time working from home, growing just the most disgusting mustache possible.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's easy because what I can grow that could be construed as a mustache in some states, I'm sure, legally.
Sure. Well, your dad grows a very good mustache.
It's true. That is true. I don't think I got his facial hair genes.
No.
I don't think
you got your mom's facial hair genes.
Yeah, so it's not really much going on. Like her side of the family, like a couple of my uncles on her side, I mean, one of whom is a piece of shit, but he can grow a decent mustache. And the other one is a decent guy, and he also can grow a decent mustache. I never saw my grandfather with facial hair.
Really?
Her dad, my mom's dad, I never saw him with facial hair. So I don't know if he was really capable, because his entire life he had a very close cut flat top.
Wow.
And completely clean shaven.
Yeah.
For his entire life.
Wow. You're making me miss my grandpa now.
Yeah.
My grandfather, anytime I smell these three things, I think of my grandfather. I smell Barbasol in the red can, Feet, and Brute by Fabergé. Those three things, baby. Oh, Grandpa, miss you, man.
Grandpa. I think my grandpa wore a very specific brand of aftershave. I wouldn't be able to tell you what it was, but that comes to mind when I think of him. Mm-hmm. And other than that, like, smells don't come to mind necessarily, but other than gardens. I often think very much about, because he was an avid gardener. He had a very green thumb, and so I think of like strawberries and stuff, because he had strawberry bushes that we would basically raid. It'd be, all right, everybody start picking stuff from the garden. And, we would eat half of it. But so I tend to think of stuff like that. I didn't know until his memorial service that my granddad had been an English teacher.
Really?
Briefly. I had no idea I just thought he had worked, for him and his brother's road construction business.
Sure.
His whole adult life or whatever. I knew he had been in the National Guard, and then did road construction for a very long time until they sold their company. And a few years after that, he kept on with the people that they sold it to oversee things. But I had no idea he was an English teacher at one point. And it suddenly made a lot of sense why, when I was little, I would hand him completed and passed spelling tests, and he would give me money. He'd be, all right, good job. And then he would give me money for successful spelling tests.
Why does he care? Oh, he was an English teacher.
Yeah, it suddenly just made more sense to me that he was an English teacher. So, but yeah, that's what I think of.
You think of your grandpa?
Yeah, it's just, the aftershave, but then the gardening and everything else.
Yeah.
He's a great dude.
Yeah, I actually saw a picture of my grandfather. It was a hand drawn picture, but it was very high art hand drawn picture of him in the Army Air Force.
Wow, who drew a picture of him when he was in the Army Air Force?
The Army Air Force.
That was early.
Yeah, it was there. He was in 1945. No,
okay. So did he join
1946?
Did he join post-war, or did he serve in World War II at all?
He joined right at the end of World War II.
Okay. But yeah, because I can't remember when the Air Force officially became a thing separate from the Army.
Right.
I don't remember when that was.
He was a broadcaster in the Army Air Force.
He was in the nascent AFARTS.
Yeah, he was in AFARTS, Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Good old AFARTS.
Yeah. I used to watch Fen AFARTS. Far East Network. AFARTS, Far East Network. AFARTS Fen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do they have fun with the whole AFARTS thing?
I think the new guys do. If you're brand new, petty officer, whatever, farts. But if you've been doing it for a while, it's like, fucking
it's just not funny anymore.
It's not funny.
That's the only thing. The military is the only thing in the world that can make the word fart not funny.
I remember we used to call in. I don't remember how we got the number, but the local radio station that just played music or whatever for the Far East Network, AFARTS. Mm-hmm. They're at the base in Clark Air Force Base. I think it was actually at a Subic Bay, and there was a dude who was always on, and he'd take requests. I don't remember who would get the number. We'd call him, and he'd be like, fucking, it was like, how we are with fucking damn right that calls in.
Yeah,
we were damn right for him. We that's just what we were. And in fact, I requested the only Slayer song, speaking of Slayer, that they had every time just about, and it was their version. I'm surprised
they had a Slayer song.
They did, from the Less Than Zero soundtrack. Remember that movie with Robert Downey Jr. and it was just a movie about being high on drugs all the time.
It wasn't from it wasn't Angel of Death from the Gremlins 2 soundtrack.
It was not. I remember sitting and seeing that in the theater when the big spider gremlin comes out of the shadows and suddenly fucking Slayer's on a movie. But yeah, no, it was in their version of Inagata-Devita.
Oh wow. Well, and hey, it's in the Philippines too, so it's I mean, I'm not super familiar with the original song, I guess. Is that in Spanish? Is that Spanish?
No.
Is that no? Okay.
Inagata-Devita, I believe, actually was supposed to be In the Garden of Eden.
Okay.
It was actually supposed to be that, but the singer, what the hell's his name from Iron Butterfly?
Was too high.
Was too fucked up. They were recording it in the church.
He couldn't say Eden. So.
You Vito, baby.
So the official title of the track is Inagata-Devita.
Inagata-Devita, and they're like, should we change it? Yeah, let's change it. Yeah. Let's just make it that. I mean, it's pretty cool that way anyway.
Well, we're already talking about Slayer, so sure. We might as well get straight into it. So we mentioned we're talking about Rain in Blood.
Yes.
1986, Slayer's third studio album, and undoubtedly their most popular and most well received, and probably the one that cemented their legacy as being one of the greatest thrash metal bands of all time. And if they had never done anything else, still would have kept them in the big four, I think.
Oh yeah.
This is a landmark album from them. 10
tracks, 26 minutes.
Yeah, and it's
just pure awesome.
And it's so short too.
Yeah.
Something that had such a massive impact is so concise. Maybe that might be part of why it is so it has such a lasting legacy, is that there's not a lot of fat on this.
There's no fat. Yeah, this is lean.
This is some lean stuff right here. And it is sort of lost. I sort of lost my place here, but no, it's fine. It's my goodness. I think it's interesting because there are so many bands, and I don't know if I think the big four do this. I think all of them do this a lot, where they play their most popular song from way back in the day.
Sure. Well, I mean,
at every concert, because that's what people want to hear.
Right. That's what all good bands. Do you remember Rock in the Hills we used to have up in Botno?
Yeah.
Remember Asia came. supergroup from the early 80s. They had a couple of great hits back in the 80s. And Shane was telling me about it. He was at the show and they played all the stuff from their new album.
Which nobody gave a shit about.
This is the year 2000. This is happening. Yeah. And Shane says he's halfway through the concert. He lost his voice from yelling, "Fuck you" at the band.
And it's like, it's got to be, on one hand, for some people, it has to be, for some people in some bands, it's got to be very frustrating to have a couple of big hits and then have nobody give a shit about anything else you've ever made.
Right.
That's got to be very frustrating. And I don't think that's the case with most metal fans and most metal bands.
Right.
And I believe, I've been doing some reading over, today, just to prepare to talk about Slayer for more than what I know off the top of my head. And at least for the part of Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King, like Angel of Death and Raining Blood are like some of two of their favorite songs that they've ever done.
Sure.
And they had no problem playing both of them live at every single concert for the rest of their career. They had no issue with that, as it would seem. Because of course we're going to keep playing this. People love it, and we fucking love it. They're fun songs to play.
I think Raining Blood was the last song they played live on stage.
It was Angel of Death.
Angel of Death.
I watched that video. I feel like it would have been thematically more fitting to have it be Raining Blood, because it's the way that Rain in Blood closes.
Sure.
And it also... They traditionally didn't do this live. They traditionally didn't do the hard stop live, and where it just cuts out and then cuts to thunder.
That's a weird thing to do. It would become a weird thing to do live. Yeah.
It's doable. You just need some coordination from front of house. But in your sound guys, as long as if you have experienced enough roadies, you can do it. Like the shit that Devin Townsend pulls off regularly in live shows, and also live shows done entirely by himself from his basement on Twitch. The shit he can pull off on his own.
What is that camera writing on?
It's on the camera is on an oscillating fan that he can trigger with a button. Like the shit that Devin Townsend can do entirely on his own from the comfort of his basement is insane. But I think Slayer could have very well figured something like that out. But traditionally they sort of extended that last kind of dueling series of riffs. That's how I would describe it anyways. I always kind of pictured it in my head as being like a sort of a big duel between Jeff and Kerry in a way, even if that's not necessarily how they played it. But
not at the end. No Jeff at the end.
Yeah. Not at the end of the band anyway, unfortunately. If you're not aware of the history of or the recent history of Slayer, I guess. Slayer, by the way,
quite a while ago, Jeff died.
Yeah, Jeff Hanneman died in 2013, I think. He played his last tour with the band in 2011, after which he came down with necrotizing fasciitis when he got bit by a spider while in somebody's... Yeah. Well, yeah, that happened to Chester Bennington from Linkin Park as well.
Is that how he committed suicide?
No. That's not what led to... This was Chester Bennington. This happened to Chester Bennington, in the early 2000s. He got bitten by a brown recluse and had necrotizing fasciitis and was sick for months.
Sure.
But throughout the next couple of years, there were enough medical complications to keep Jeff from touring. What killed him, though, was cirrhosis.
Right. Drinking.
And apparently nobody in his family was at least willing to publicly admit that they were aware of how bad his problem was. And it might be one of those things where maybe his problem wasn't necessarily that bad functionally. It's just that if you drink... every day, if you don't even have enough drinks to get drunk every day for your entire life, but just have, a couple of drinks every single day for your whole life, and you're prone to cirrhosis, it's going to happen to you. You might not even consider, if you're just a regular drinker, but you don't consider yourself an alcoholic and it hasn't had a disastrous impact on you. I don't know enough about Jeff Hanneman to comment on any of that, but it's what killed him.
Well, he seemed to be very competent on stage all the time. It's one of those things where, I mean, he could schedule his... There are people who are bad alcoholics who are very, schedule oriented.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people say, and I think the term gets thrown around so much that some people who have a problem are willing to not deal with their problem when they should. But the term functioning alcoholic, there are plenty of people who could definitely be described as such.
Right.
But I think the existence of the term is maybe used by some as an excuse to keep on doing what they're doing when it would probably benefit them to quit or slow down. But in any case, so Jeff Hanneman passed away in 2013, and he was one of the founding members of the band. It was Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman.
He was 49, wasn't he?
Yes, he was only 49 when he passed away. Yeah. Did Slayer put out any new music after Jeff had passed? Okay.
Yes, they did.
I wasn't super
at least
aware.
2 albums, I think,
with Gary Holt filling in for him
from Exodus.
Of course. Oh, yeah, that's right. He is from Exodus. I was going to say, I mean, hey, if you're going to get somebody to fill in for Jeff Hanneman in Slayer,
sure,
you might as well get somebody from Exodus.
Yeah, because
I think like outside of the big, because like Slayer is the most extreme of the big four.
Right.
I think Megadeth gets closer than any of the other ones. Anthrax is on the complete other side of the room.
They're the goofy uncle.
Yeah, Anthrax is the goofy uncle, and Metallica is the one that's got its shit together. Slayer is your weird goth uncle that used to be in a metal band and is like, or maybe he's not goth. Slayer is your metalhead. Slayer's me in the group of uncles. I guess I'm not enough fun to be the Slayer uncle, I guess, but I'm not. out of my nephew's choices of uncles, which I guess there's only 2. There's only 2 of those. It's just me, and it's just I don't know why that's weird to me all of a sudden that that me and Josh are my nephew's only uncles. I don't know why that's weird to me, right?
Yeah,
I'm not forgetting anybody. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody, and
he's not really related to Josh.
No, he's
Josh is by marriage.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't know. I think it's weird to me because I have a billion uncles. Okay, not a billion. I have a lot of uncles. It's not that. I think I have. How many uncles do I have? I have 5 uncles.
I have 1 uncle.
You have a wunkle.
I have a wunkle. I had a drunkle as well.
You had a drunkle, and he got 2 drunkle.
Yeah, he got 2 drunk. Yeah, he was my grandmother's brother. He was the uncle who used to come over because he didn't have anywhere to crash right now.
He was your great drunkle.
Yeah, my great drunkle. He was my grandmother's brother, and he didn't have anywhere to crash, so he had to crash at my grandma's house and drink all of the extracts from the baking supplies.
Oh boy!
And then eventually he died in a van in a grocery store parking lot.
Oh
yeah.
At least it wasn't down by the river.
It might have been. I don't know.
Well, the grocery store might have been down by the river.
Potentially.
I wouldn't describe the location as being down by the river, though.
No, if it was
it was in the grocery store parking lot.
It was in a Vons parking lot, yeah.
In any case, also recent history of Slayer. We mentioned this briefly. Slayer no longer touring, no longer.
No, they retired.
Yeah, they are retired. I think the official verbiage that like their agents used is they are not broken up. It's just that they will not make music probably ever again.
Right.
And God, it's like I feel like the second that Slayer quit touring, everyone was like, "When's a reunion show gonna happen?" And on one, like that's got to be so annoying. It's like, dude, just calm the fuck. Like everybody's so horny for Slayer. It's just like, just give it some time.
Yeah, they want to retire. And well, okay, like Tom wants to retire.
Yeah, it's like
Kerry doesn't want to retire.
Yeah, Kerry's gonna keep making music.
Yeah.
But it's like, and like Dave Lombardo, who Dave's not been in the band for a little bit here.
For a while,
well, he came back sporadically.
Although he has a new album out.
Well, yeah, I still haven't listened to the new Mr. Bungle album.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I gotta, Dave Lombardo's been incredibly prolific just as a drummer in and out of Slayer throughout the years. Most recently, their drummer was Paul Bostaph.
Right.
What else has Paul Bostaph done? The name is Forbidden. That's right. Okay. But Dave Lombardo's been very prolific and very influential, and has performed with a shitload of different acts throughout his career. Is there some sort of multiple instances of his reasons for leaving Slayer have had to do with pay? Is there some sort of, because I don't know anything about Dave Lombardo personally, is there does he have a reputation for being kind of an asshole or what?
I think there are rumors of that, but I haven't really heard much.
Because Kerry King has gone on record a couple of times saying that Dave Lombardo is the most talented drummer he's ever seen, basically, which is, I think that means something, because Kerry's not usually the type to give much praise to literally anybody. I think one of the great symbols that Mastodon's pretty good is when in 2005 Kerry King was yeah, Mastodon kicks ass.
Well, it must be.
So if it's if Kerry King actually likes something, then I guess it's probably good. But Kerry basically said that when they would do shows with Dave, everybody would be, practicing and doing whatever for an hour. And Dave would just show up, not warm up. He'd spend 15 minutes, figuring out his stuff, and then just fucking destroy it and just play perfectly. No warm up, no practice. He would just show up and fucking kill it. And it's just we've all been practicing for an hour, and Dave just showed up and can do it perfectly. So he's just I think Kerry King described it as natural talent. So this came out in 1986. They'd been around since 81 doing their thing.
Right, their first album came out in 83 though.
Yes. And this was, I think, their first big album. This Is For You, especially.
This was the one that I heard first.
This is, would you say this is an album that changed the course of your life?
Totally. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I heard this. Yeah, and it kind of sucked having this be the first album that really got me into thrash metal.
Set a very high bar.
It's thrash metal, and then I loved this. Listen to the rest of it. Yeah, I like the rest of it a lot.
This is the most amazing thing I've ever heard, but it's not Slayer. Yeah, this was a very high bar, I think. Yeah. Well, and especially since part of what I was reading is what took people was that this was one of the first really extreme thrash metal albums that they had heard that didn't sound like ass.
Yeah, because there was a lot of extreme metal at the time, but it was extreme metal recorded in somebody's bathtub. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This was engineered by fucking Rick Rubin.
Yeah. Rick Rubin was not a guy who typically recorded with metal bands.
No, not at all. No, he did rap acts. This was on Def Jam Records. I mean, Slayer was kicked off. Was it Metal Blade they were on? And for some reason they lost their contract, and then they shopped around, and he was Def Jam. What mean with the rap records?
Yeah, Metal Blade is on their list of labels that they were on at some point.
Yeah.
Wow, Rick Rubin's got a big beard, or at least in the picture that of him in 2006.
He does. He's nearly always had a big beard.
Some of the acts who have recorded with Rick Rubin and released on American recordings include Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, Public Enemy, Ghetto Boys, Run DMC,
the Red Hot Chili Peppers,
among a great many others. So Danzig is listed on a list of associated acts. I don't know if Danzig is recorded. I'm looking at Wikipedia at the moment. Associated. I just noticed Danzig on Associated. There's also Linkin Park on Associated Acts, so I wonder if Linkin Park has ever recorded with him.
Or the people at Wikipedia go, it's rock and roll music, right? They're the same.
I think that what we're getting here is he is a man who typically works with what could be perceived as much more popular acts than Slayer would have been at the time of recording of Rain and Blood. Because I don't know how established Slayer was in the thrash metal scene before Rain in Blood. I imagine they were like a local favorite, and
they're already fairly big. Show No Mercy and Hell Awaits really hit big. Those were great albums.
They were. Would it be better to say they were big with thrash metal fans?
They were,
but no one outside of metal knew what Slayer was before Rain in Blood, and then Rain in Blood hits, and then suddenly everyone was like, "Holy shit! What the fuck is this?"
Yeah,
it kind of set the world on fire for a bit, perhaps. This is kind of a stupid question. Was there anything else that you wanted to? Because so where were you? Were you in the Philippines when?
Yeah, I was in the Philippines.
You first listened to Rain in Blood?
I got initially when I got it was a copy of a cassette copy of a cassette copy of a cassette copy. And it was on a 45. Oh no, it was on a 90-minute. What was it? Maybe it was a 45-minute. It was a shorter cassette, and it had Rain in Blood, the whole album on both sides, the cassette, so that you could flip it over and listen to it again.
Play the whole album again without having to be rewound. That's pretty cool.
It was great. Yeah, I loved it, and I wore it out. It was one of the first cassettes that I played enough to where I fucked it up and had to take a very tiny screwdriver from an eyeglasses case.
You broke it.
I had to actually go take the cassette tape apart and apply Scotch tape to the actual Mylar tape inside.
You had to perform brain surgery, basically,
on a cassette.
on your Rain in Blood tape.
I did.
On your Rain in Blood several generations later bootleg.
And then eventually I went and I bought this at Subic Bay on CD. I saw it on CD. I can only get one. That one! And I bought it. And it had the big long, it was back when they had the big long cardboard covers, with the jewel case and everything.
Yep.
And so, of course, that shit was on my wall immediately.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. And on my wall, your head. No, it's the lyric in this album.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that didn't land partially because there are so many lyrics on this album.
Oh, I know.
Holy shit. I don't know
thick
how
with verbiage.
I don't know how Tom keeps that shit straight. Like the especially on I think Jesus Saves is probably the zenith, the climax of the staccato. Just or
necrophobic is one that also
that too.
Yeah.
Of just the nonstop, just I just don't know how one talks so fast. It's Tom Araya, the Eminem of metal. Yeah. It's perhaps a title that he could earn. And to the point, I think it's not super often, but every once in a while he struggles to keep up just a little bit.
Yeah, he's a little bit behind it, but he gets there. But he has to really work.
A couple of points where he struggles to keep up with the beat, with the lyrics. But he certainly gets there on the subject of lyrics. So I think Angel of Death is what created the most lasting controversy that followed them throughout their entire career, because it's a song about Joseph Mengele, and that made everybody assume for the entire rest of their career that these guys are Nazis.
Sure.
That because Jeff Hanneman was just interested in war memorabilia.
Sure.
He grew up in a family of veterans. His father was German and moved to the United States. And this is as far as I understand the story. This might be inaccurate, but this is how I understand the story as I read it. Jeff Hanneman's father was from Germany, moved to the United States, served in the U.S. military, fought in Normandy against his former countrymen, basically.
Sure.
But he grew up in a family of veterans, and there was a lot of war memorabilia. His dad had war trophies, and some of those
How old was his dad? He was
Nazi. I don't know how old Jeff Hanneman's.
Jeff Hanneman was born in 1964, so his father, if he went to war in World War I, would have been way after the war when Jeff was born.
Well, that's it. It's 20 years. Dad would have been in his 40s.
Sure.
People still having kids. That also, it's the 60s. People having more kids.
Sure. Yeah, they're smoking dope. And
yep, absolutely. That's what was
Jeff
going on.
Hanneman's German World War II veteran father became a flower child in the 1960s.
At the very least, what Wikipedia says about his early life is that his father fought at Normandy in World War II. And it says that his father fought for the Allied side. I assume that's accurate because Wikipedia has kept it up, and it's not like Jeff Hanneman is this super obscure person that no one would ever check the veracity of these claims. It's getting late. You keep on looking at your watch. No, I realize we've been talking for such a long time.
No, I realized I have 9,900 steps for the day.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But in any case,
and they were, Jeff and Carrie were 22 when this album was made.
Yeah, they were 22
when this album came out, I should say.
There's so many of the bands that you bring where it's like stuff earlier in their career, and it's these people that accomplished these amazing big things, and like they did that when they were 19, and I'm like, man, I'm 24. I haven't done anything.
Yeah, this was the third album and one of the best thrash albums. Thrash, also the best thrash albums. One of the best thrash albums ever. They're from Huntington, California. They are.
Or was it Huntington, California, or Huntington Beach, California?
Huntington, not Huntington Beach. I've been to Huntington Beach.
They're from Huntington Park,
Huntington
California.
Park, that's what it is.
Which Huntington Park is still in Los Angeles County because there's a Huntington Beach.
Which the last time I was there with my daughter who's a year older than you, and we ate Cold Stone Creamery on a pier. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's a Huntington Park and a Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach is where Avenged Sevenfold is from.
Really?
Yep.
It's a pier town.
Yeah, it's that's at least if you look up Avenged Sevenfold, it says Huntington Beach, California.
A7X.
Yep. Which at some point I should bring something of theirs just for nostalgia purposes. They make a lot of great music. It's just that they kind of the reputation has sort of preceded them as being sort of an entry level metal band for people that are my age, and so they have a better reputation than like Five Finger Death Punch,
right?
And especially since Five Finger Death Punch has continued to spike in popularity, especially in the douchebag crowd.
Sure.
Whereas Avenged Sevenfold in like the last 5 years has kind of taken a nosedive in album sales. Even though I think I haven't listened to their... Well, I have listened to their newest album because I thought they had a new album out, but it's a compilation of like B-sides that they put out recently. But in 2016 was their last full length, and I really liked that. I thought it was really good. So at some point we'll talk about that. We're way into this, so let's just speed through our criteria. Does this slap? What I wrote down was just Slayer.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it does. No, it slaps it's fucking Slayer.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You asked me that question, I want to turn into Kenneth Copeland all of a sudden.
That man is terrifying.
Yeah, he is terrifying.
That man is completely terrifying. It also reminds me of Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
There's this scene in Final Fantasy. I've never played a Final Fantasy game.
Really?
I know this scene though. There's a scene in Final Fantasy X where the main character and one of his like followers in his party or whatever, because it's basically anime D&D is what it is. But one of the people in his party, they're like having a conversation, and they let out the most terrible fake laughs that are just hilarious. That was part of the point. It was like they were forcing themselves to laugh, and so it sounds funny. Most people think the laugh is supposed to sound genuine and that the voice actors were just awful, but apparently that was not the case. No. Anyway, for the score, I also wrote down Slayer.
And when you say he wrote it down, he carved it into his forehead.
No, I carved it into my forearm.
Forearm, yeah.
That someone actually did that.
Yeah, I know.
But no, the actual score, just from the Wikipedia page for Rain and Blood is 95.6.
Sure.
I think that's one of the highest average scores that we've found.
on any metal album.
Because most albums that we would describe as good and albums that we give gold to don't usually break 85.
Sure.
Because there's always a couple of publications that are just like, this wasn't quite my thing. And they give it, a 65 or something.
This was the album where they thought they were being cool. Oh.
Derivative.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song? This is perhaps the most important question of the night.
I think the aforementioned Necrophobic is my favorite song on it because there's just so many words and I have it like memorized.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I smile with a rictus grin when I mouth along with it. You know, it's just,
and you can't help yourself.
Yeah, I can't help it. Yeah.
Is it too normie of me to say Raining Blood?
It's fine.
Is that gauche?
It's a great song. It's a fantastic song.
I think part of the reason why, because Raining Blood is the first Slayer song I ever heard.
Really?
And that was from playing Guitar Hero 3. And so the opening of the song is burned into my head because it was one of the most difficult songs in the main section of Guitar Hero 3. Sure. Of course, in Guitar Hero 3, everybody says, Through the Fire and the Flames is the most
difficult. That's the final song, yeah.
Well, it plays over the credits, but
right,
and then it's a bonus song. But like everybody says, that's the most difficult. Other than that, I think Raining Blood is the most difficult song in like the main campaign section of the game. It's very difficult, partially because Kerry King's guitar solos make no sense whatsoever.
Oh, neither do Jeff's.
Yeah. Kerry and Jeff, when it comes to a guitar solo, it's just kind of like, we're just gonna do whatever, man.
It's gonna be some extreme chaos. That's what it is. I mean,
and that's what it sounds like.
It's such beautiful chaos.
Yeah,
I mean, it's great.
It's mildly organized chaos.
I mean, you can tell they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
You listen to it and you go, they're not just bumbling through it.
Yeah. Well, because it doesn't.
But there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, if they were bumbling through it, it would sound like shit. But like everything sounds good. It just doesn't. You hit 10,000 steps by miming the drums to Raining Blood. Good job. Okay, stop. My downstairs neighbors are going to wonder what's going on.
Right now, you know what they're doing. The downstairs going.
No, they aren't. No. But yeah, it's just ingrained in my head from Guitar Hero 3. I had such a difficult time with that song. I think I was, at least from a cognitive and dexterity sense, too young to play Guitar Hero 3. When I was playing Guitar Hero, there are plenty of people who were the same age as me, I'm sure, that were
fantastic,
8 billion times better than me at Guitar Hero. But for me, like, video games has been one of these things where I'm kind of a late bloomer. Where like I didn't really understand how to play video games until I was like 17.
Really?
Like I played video games all the time, but I wasn't good at any of them because I never had it in my head like, I never memorized anything in the sense that, like, now when I play like Doom Eternal or something like that, like I kind of know if I
motor memory and you got all that.
Yeah, I've got the muscle memory built, and I remember like certain enemies' attack patterns and stuff like that. Like if I tried to play Dark Souls when I was 14, I never would have gotten anywhere. And I haven't played Dark Souls when I'm 24 either. But I feel like I would be able to play it now because I understand how games work. When I was 14, I didn't know how any video game worked. And so it's sort of weird, but this is a stupid question. This is almost entirely
there are no stupid questions.
There are stupid questions, because the question I'm about to ask is, what metal are you bestowing upon this, like Maskanata to Chewbacca?
Man, is there a kind of metal that exists within plasma in the sun?
I mean, you could give it like a
platinum or no?
Well, I was going to say platinum, but even that seems too low just for the reputation of this.
Which a lot of people will say this is the second best thrash album.
What would people say is the best thrash album?
Let's see if you can guess. What would you guess?
I'm going to see Master of Puppets.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably which
A lot of people say that one.
you'll have to bring that at some point as well.
All right.
But I'm trying to think. My knowledge of the periodic table is failing me at the moment. Is this a uranium?
Unobtainium.
This is an this is an unobtained. It's fucking. It's
The
from
movie Avatar. Yeah.
The movie Avatar.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. It's an unobtainium metal. Our first unobtainium metal. Good job, Slayer.
Yeah, because this is their highest accolade. You and I in your spare bedroom
Yep.
giving medals to metal bands.
In my extra bedroom, we're handing out awards to metal bands like anybody gives a shit.
I think it would be hilarious if at some point, a band we talk about calls their buddies, dude, you're never going to guess what just happened.
That's never going to happen.
We got a fucking gold medal from Kale and OJ
On the Bronze Medalist podcast, these two douchebags.
Beers are on me, man.
I'm being too harsh on myself. I'm not a douchebag.
No, you're not. What?
It took you a little bit.
Hey. I know.
I think if that was more on brand with my type of comedy, I would have said you're not a douchebag. But
You said moron brand?
yeah, my type of comedy is extremely self-deprecating.
Yeah.
That's how I.
Which is very popular right now.
Yeah,
Fucking lazy
no,
of you, if you ask me.
You're right. So I haven't really given much thought to what we were going to do next week, partially because I've been so preoccupied with
Things have been
figuring
chaos.
out how my life is going to go. This is the second time in a row that I haven't had something in mind. But I mentioned Avenged Sevenfold.
Let's do it. I'm down.
So it's the at least the year 2020
right.
is the 10-year anniversary of the album Nightmare, which is the album that got me into Avenged Sevenfold.
Which makes it important.
Let me look and see when. Not Nightmare, literally Wikipedia. I meant Nightmare, the Avenged Sevenfold album.
Yeah.
Where the hell is
Reminds me,
Avenged Sevenfold
did I tell you we bought the clock, the house with the clock in the walls?
Yes.
Is that the movie?
Yeah.
We've watched it 3 times now. And the main character, the little boy, Lewis or whatever, his best friend in the movie is played by Sonny Sulek.
From God of War.
Yeah, so that's all I can see. But it's him and hear his voice and go,
It's
Dad,
Atreus.
don't leave me!
Boy,
Boy.
go talk to Jack Black, boy.
Boy, we're going to raise the dead, boy.
Which is funny because I'm sure Jack Black has probably played God of War on Twitch.
Of course.
Because that's mostly what he do when he's not filming movies. He's streaming games and shit on Twitch and YouTube. So July 27th, 2010 is when Nightmare came out. It's other than The Stage, which came out in 2016. It's kind of like for a while, between The Stage and Nightmare was Hail to the King, which is an album that I thought was incredibly boring.
Yeah, that one song I'm listening to going, oh,
it was really, really, really boring. I think Nightmare is pretty good on the drums. Most of the drums, anyway, recorded by Mike Portnoy.
really? Who's that?
For reasons I'm sure we'll get into next week.
All right.
But yeah, we'll do Nightmare by Avenged Sevenfold when we return.
I'm down.
Thank you all very much for listening to another episode of
I'll see you in 7 days.
Yeah, yeah, you'll be the first human being.
We need to do this. We'll schedule like a walk to a restaurant, get a burger. How you doing?
That might be a good idea.
All right. I'm down with that.
That might be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, social media, like
Sure.
we give a fuck. Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
Check those
how are
out.
the metal bands going to find out that we've given them a medal if they can't find us on social media?
I don't even tweet I don't even like link the bands that we talk about on each episode. I should probably do that on Twitter if the bands have a Twitter.
Hey, we're talking about you.
But I think I used to do that, but I haven't done it in a long time.
I feel like we actually got a response from one band that I did hashtag their name on Twitter.
There was at some point where
it was the Residents.
I talked about the band Code Orange, and they tweeted back at us. I don't even remember.
We did talk about Code Orange. Well, I forgot about that.
That was. I don't remember when the fuck that even was.
We've been doing this for over 2 years, man.
That was 8 billion years ago. That was shortly after the Big Bang. As far as I'm concerned.
A singularity expand, Code Orange.
Code Orange. That's when that happened. So, thank you all very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm still sane for the time being, and I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.
We love you guys. Thanks.
We love you.
Thanks for showing up. Okay, now I gotta stand up.